himself, so we're trying to poke and prod to get him to come speak. Either way, to be a great event. Y'all are available November 10th, which also happens to be the day before Veterans Day and the Marine Corps birthday. Hoorah! Hoorah! Oh. So we're really excited about that. But jump in, Sabrina, if you would introduce our leaders.
All right, well, let's have you guys come up. Ian, Shady, Courtney. We're very excited to have really recruited Ian from the first Veterans in Residence cohort. He just moved to Austin last December, went through the first cohort at WeWork, and was already doing what Jonathan and I have done for the last 3 or 4 years. He was very interested in meeting with his fellow cohort members, working on their business models, challenging them on what their business model was and how they were doing things. And so we asked him if he'd be interested to come on, and he agreed. Don't know that he really knew what he was signing up for, but he's done a fantastic job, and we're excited to have him on. So I'll let him talk a little bit about himself, and then we'll go to Shady and Courtney.
Ian Falau, Army veteran. Cool. All right, I like it. While in the Army, I started some side businesses. I started to realize that I like taking people's money. Well, so when I say that, I mean I like building a product or a service that somebody's willing to give away their hard-earned money to me in exchange for. And so that's what, I started to realize that I had this passion for this. When I got out of the Army, I went off to business school and started a company called GetLinks. It's a company that has software that focuses on analyzing threats in other enterprises software. So we specifically look at open source, if you guys are into that techie world. Open source threats, vulnerabilities, license restrictions, that kind of thing. It's actually getting acquired this week. So just got the term sheet yesterday, so we're pretty excited.
Congratulations.
Thanks, appreciate it. So looking forward to new ventures. But I got associated with Bunker Labs when I got here in December. Somebody said, hey, you want to get involved in this community somehow, and absolutely, it's been awesome. Started out with the Veterans in Residence program right when I got here. That meant I already had 9 companies, 9 other startup founders that joined my network right from the very beginning, and I got to communicate with them and realize that what I really like to do is talk to them about their business models and like Sabrina said, challenge them, and then try to build somewhat of a network for them. I loved it so much, I decided, hey, I want to continue doing this after the VIR, our Veterans in Residence cohort, is over. So now that's what I do primarily with Bunker Labs, is I help out the Veterans in Residence program up at the Domain, at the WeWork up there. 10 amazing companies going through it right now that have already, for the most part, launched product out in market. A lot of them making some great money, some great revenue. But that's what this whole program is all about. That's what this organization's about. It's about finding veterans out there that are hard-charging, passionate about some kind of idea or business, and then helping them with the resources and the network to be able to scale and really make an impact on this world. But yeah, thanks.
So our community is often talked about in terms of veterans, but we're very intentional to be inclusive and to make sure that as much as possible, people know that we serve military spouses as well as those that are still actively serving, whether that's active duty through Launch Lab Online or in the Reserve or Guard. And so I'm really excited that we have recruited 2 military spouses to our local team to work here in Austin. And Shady has been a part of the community through Texas Venture Labs and at UT, and really just probably knows a lot of people in the community. So she is joining the team to help make those connections into the community. And then we have Courtney, who is a Marine veteran spouse and really going to help lead programming and the behind the scenes work that we need to tackle our mission. And so we'll let each of you talk about what you're excited about.
So it's Shady like Slim Shady. Super easy to remember, so if you want to look online. So I'm originally from San Antonio, so I definitely know San Antonio. A lot of folks probably have been through there at some point in their career. So my background is in entrepreneurship. My undergrads are entrepreneurship and marketing. So I've been at Ecosystem for a while. I did JBear, I was in Bragg, Raleigh-Durham area, which is very high in like engineering and tech. So if there's any connections on the East Coast, I'm more than happy to reach out to those networks. But here in Austin, I transitioned back to Austin. I did my master's at McCombs in technology commercialization. So literally bringing any product to market. From there, I was recruited for Texas Venture Lab as a venture partner. So we have an accelerator there on campus that works with early stage startups who are looking for their first round. So that could be like your seed or your Series A. You could have went to market and you kind of need some refinement. Or maybe it's more of like the SBIR, things to learn about a little later of how to connect in the ecosystem. So with that in mind, like Capital Factory, like literally all the accelerators or the angel networks, we've pretty much been heavily involved in those different ecosystems. So if that's something that you're looking for, or if there's an engineer that you need a scout from UT, I'm more than happy to connect you with the folks that could get interns or anything in that respect. But outside of that, we're all very entrepreneurial, so I would assume a lot of the things that Ian is also involved in, doing your own startup or connecting with vets. Like a lot of my counterparts in the technology commercialization program are veterans, and so even like one of my cohort members already raised about like $500,000. We have some entrepreneurs here in town who started a like alcohol company. It's called Desert Door, and they raised $1 million already. So our part of connecting, that's where we want you to be able to connect with other vets who've been there, and so it kind of eases the struggle in that respect. So.
I'm Courtney. My husband served in the Marines. He is on kid duty this morning, which is why he couldn't make it. But you'll see him around too, and I'd love for y'all to meet him. My day job is social media. I work with a small agency here in Austin, and we produce Social Media Week every year in February. What that means for you is that if you've ever got a marketing woe, specifically social media, I'd love to help you. I'm also involved with IVMF. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's the Institute for Veteran Military Families. Yeah, I'm pretty sure y'all are familiar. I've spoken at a few of their conferences, but Wes, my husband, is the one that linked me up with Sabrina, and public speaking is my glass half empty, but helping veterans is my glass half full. So while I hate doing this, I'm very happy to do the behind the scene things and then see you one-on-one at the Bunker Brews later.
So that is about us. We want to turn it back over to you all. And if there are any Defense Innovation startups in the room, I'd like to give you the opportunity to stand up and pitch what you're working on.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
How did you choose the name Bunker, and what does it mean to you?
So our CEO is Todd Connor. He's based in Chicago, and he was stationed on the USS Bunker Hill,
Oh, I see.
which is a Navy ship named after an Army battle. But that is how we got our name. Mm-hmm. Yep. Any startups that want to pitch?
So while you think through that, AFWorks, and we get you to come up here real quick and give your elevator pitch for those who don't know about AFWorks and what you're working on.
Hey all, I'll introduce myself. My name's Craig Levitt. I'm the director of AFWorks Austin, which is downstairs if you've seen our office. I'm a 2-decade plus veteran myself. I've been fortunate enough to be involved in some projects associated with public-private partnerships, and then in the startup and innovation world for the last couple of years. AFWorks is a program that was announced just about 16 months ago by the Secretary of the Air Force to try and bring innovation into the Air Force to help our airmen partner with commercial companies on the outside, take emerging technologies and figure out a way to absorb those into what the Air Force does in a entrepreneur's timeline, so think weeks and months rather than in a federal government timeline, which might be considered years and decades. So that's true, actually, sadly. So yeah, a lot of the things that we've learned from startups and even other larger successful companies is they just want to stay away from the federal government because it just slows them down and they're unable to make any traction, and we want to try and reverse that trend on the AFWorks side. So our model is literally to take airmen and turn them into entrepreneurs. So we consider ourselves a incubator for airmen ideas. And again, the idea is to take those airmen, build a team around them, give them access to resources so they can be successful inside the Air Force.
So those resources are some of y'all's solutions that you're coming up with.
Right.
You're already doing that. You're not talking about it, AFWERX is already doing it.
No, we're definitely doing it. We consider ourselves a startup also. We're doing as part of this track, we're downstairs twice today, 9:30 and 2 o'clock. So we're doing I think we've got an hour and 15 minutes at each one of those. We're gonna give a presentation, talk to you all or whoever attends about some of the things that we're doing and how we provide value to small businesses, and give you some details on that and let you help be a part of our journey as we figure out how we're gonna continue to improve and continue to make those linkages. So look forward to talking to y'all and meeting those of you who I haven't met before. We've got a team of 5 downstairs, and we're kind of a matrix organization between Headquarters Air Force, between the Training Command, which is down in San Antonio, and between our Texas Guard partners over at Camp Mabry and around.
Could you just give us 2 or 3 examples of things you're actually doing?
Sure. The first and most visible is a program we're doing called Pilot Training Next, which looks at how we can leverage 21st century technologies and approaches to learning to accelerate and improve how we train pilots. But because we're closely associated with the Training Command, the whole learning environment, training and education, is really important to our partnership. So what we're experimenting on pilot training because, well, we're the Air Force, right? But what we realize is that the Air Force has close to 200 different specialties, and the lessons that we're learning about how you use VR, AR, data science, data analytics, artificial intelligence, human-machine interface, and biometrics, and modern approaches to learning, which have to do with self-guided study and so forth. The approaches that we are learning about learning are going to be exportable across the board to human learning. So I think it's really revolutionary. We're doing experiments there with prototypes, or we have several other VR projects, and a multitude of others. But there's more to tell you. I know you have a lot to do. This was kind of an impromptu. I can give the whole pitch downstairs, but I don't want to recreate it all.
In 15 minutes,
I
you
will.
can learn a
I
lot
will
more.
encourage you to come down.
9:30 and 2.
And see 9:30 and 2. So join us for one of them. It's right down on the 7th and Brazos corner in the hotel here on the first floor.
So the warrior on the street, who's going to the crawl on Thursday? Everybody should be lifting their hands, right? So
Yeah,
if you want to
why
find a
not
party,
for
like
it?
you can find it, but if you want to find good people to meet with, it's like in here, you'll find it at the crawl too, I promise. You may have the same misconception I had about South by being from Austin. I thought that's a bunch of parties. So we're running 2 startups with a business partner. We never came to South by Southwest until after we got acquired twice. And then I came to South by, I thought, there's so many business people here. It's not just parties, right? So I encourage you to come to the crawl. The word on the street is like, that's the military hangout during the crawl, right?
Yeah, you can hang out there anytime. So we put ourselves on the corner behind the glass so you can find us, and the purpose is we want to help make those connections. Our motto is connecting innovators and accelerating results. So it's all about making connections and helping airmen be entrepreneurs inside the Air Force.
And unless they kick us out, we'll have about 100 to 120 shirts there for Bunker Labs if you let us put them there to hand out. So if you want
Bring
a
'em.
Bunker shirt, stop by.
Bring it on.
Afterwards.
We can come in 30 seconds. How are you gonna bring?
No, we
Yeah.
we can't do that right now. Sorry about that.
I-
Chris, can I put you on the spot?
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Could you give us an elevator pitch for AFC coming here, real quick? So everyone's familiar with Army Futures
Well, I'll
Command.
talk it, but I've got I've got backups here with my fellow Army guys here. So most of you know Army Futures Command is coming here. It's the largest reorganization in the Army in over 40, almost 50 years. But really what I think it means to Austin is they've paired and moved this organization to Austin outside the Fort walls to be able to interact with the innovation community. Although they'll have the same bureaucratic challenges as everything working with big Army and all the defense contractors, the one component of them, the Army Applications Lab, is really to interface with these tech local folks that have ideas. The challenge right now is going to be for Army Futures Command is to provide the context for all these folks who have great capabilities and understandings to how could it be applied to military problem sets. So the Army Applications Lab, what I believe is going to happen is going to have different events. We'll have working groups, we'll have topics of discussions. They'll bring in their cross-functional teams in all the different areas, so to include long-range precision fires, next-generation combat vehicles, soldier lethality and load, all these different things that are some of their priorities, the 7 of them. And they'll come and talk about, here's one of our challenges. And what do you guys think? Outside the box thinking. They don't want, although I'm a military guy and been on vehicles for years and others like me in the room, they look at things from a different perspective, because that's when you'll see the gaps, or the opportunities and gaps that General Murray talked about last night. So looking at our problems that we have from a different perspective, whether you have a civilian solution that now could be applied to the Army, or as we go and look at these disruptive innovations of capabilities of what the next vehicles are going to be at 2030, 2040, that's when these ideas of capabilities, the small components or subsystems of these larger systems will actually be something that would be integrated into what we're going to be using in fighting the wars, 20 years from now. It's going to be evolutionary. There are going to be opportunities. Getting to know about these, what they talked about, the OTAs, the other transaction authorities, and the SBIRs, those are integrations. But I think the inflection point for everyone here initially is going to be the Army Applications Lab. And that's what's going to be focused here in Capital Factory. That's just my read. I've talked to a couple people who behind the scenes, but that's why I think what's going to be happening, and the best way for those who are interested in interfacing with the Army and the Army Futures Command will get to.
And I think a takeaway too is that it's not just those that are in the Army or have served in the Army. They're looking at all technology. If you're a civilian, if you've already got something built commercially, and there are other resources that can help that here at Capital Factory as well, like IIU. So
it's great to know that. It's great to have people that know what's going on, but it's really that unique perspective or new angle that we're looking at the problem that's going to be the generational or disruptive technology that's going to be implemented down the road. The Army does not have the patent or the cornerstone on artificial intelligence, which is going to be integrated into all of our systems, and how that's going to be utilized for our optics, our mission command, which is how do we control all these things. All of that is going to change, and how are we going to do that in a competitive threat environment, which is going to be the challenge.
All right, so that is the end of our session. If you want to connect with us individually for questions, Shady, Courtney, Ian, myself, Jonathan will be around for a little bit, but now it's to get back to connecting amongst yourselves and go to your next session.
After Kevin speaks for 1 minute.
All right.
Okay.
So,
After Kevin.
just one more quick. Hi, I'm Kevin Lantroop. I'm not going to give anybody a pitch, but I do think that my story is really indicative of the bunker network and how quickly things can happen. So I retired from the Army on June 30th. I sprinted all the way through the end. Really didn't have much of a transition, and that was by design. I was doing focus planning with Army Europe the last week of May. Came back, did my 2 weeks of transition at Fort Belvoir, moved the family out here, and then took about 2.5 months of vacation. I went to an event here at Capital Factory and ran into Chris Daneski in late August. And he said, hey, have you heard of this Bunker Labs thing? I'm like, yeah, I've heard of it. So I went to the very next event, which was your Veterans in Residence cohort launch. Met Jonathan, met Sabrina, and honestly, within a span of about 2 weeks, just meeting those two individuals and the other folks that I made connections with at that event has directly resulted in me getting my first client. I've got about a $15,000 guaranteed revenue just from a couple of engagements. And not only that, they have given me access to the resources here at Capital Factory. They've sponsored me, thank you very much, saving me about $4,000 in costs. And for a guy who's had a business that's been running for literally less than 30 days, it's an amazingly phenomenal resource. Had a conversation with Ian just a couple of days ago. No prior entrepreneurial experience, although I believe I have an entrepreneurial mind, about the importance of having a partner and a co-founder with skills that are broad and don't really match what you do. And I've got a guy who I really want to work with that's just like that, and it's almost enough to just push us over the edge. So we've had some interesting conversations. And
Entrepreneurial strengths finders.
We think we can grow this thing quickly. So
Look
I
it
mean, it
up.
really is an amazing resource and an amazing network. I could not be happier with having met you guys and everybody in this room. So that's me.
Thank you. All right, Have a great Austin Startup Week, and we're here to connect if you need us.
Where's it at works?
It's on the first floor.
First floor?
There's a garage bay door. And
I'm actually heading down that way. All right, thanks Sabrina. Great work, y'all.
All right, say your name again. Sabrina.
When's the next session? Oh no, it's downstairs. That's at the hours. With you and Craig, all those guys. No, it's pretty close to being good. Yeah, I don't think the next event is in here until later.
Started that replace everybody connect there. There's so much fun mess. So he's just much fun. He's just really, even though I know Kevin Factory says, you know, it's Lee or something. Yeah. A need, there's a need makes it hard. No, it really doesn't matter. I was like,
What if I said Larry's mower?
I would have been like, that's what they said.
Yeah. Larry's mower?
I assumed I didn't want to.
Oh, no. What do you?
So currently one of the
Oh, no, shady.
yeah. Oh, I love that.
I like shade. You like throw shade, you know.
Exactly. So I'll say to them, just try to listen to I'll send the right however you see right there. All right, yeah. Funding space. Like that. Start right in. Trying my next sample. I just tried to
What's your background?
So my master's in technology, commercial section, and my master's in so what I've been doing the last 5 years.
So I mean, are you actually like looking
It was hard to know like where you have to be because really well. So like I didn't post it anyway for all this stuff.
And the reason I'm here is so the SBR okay. I know the people who run the program, we don't do a lot with MSF just because they're out. We're looking for something.
we have an office on the 5th floor.
Yeah,
And then we have the Veterans Residence Office that we work in. It's not easy to find me and John, and we're in at least 3 different cities, at least every other week. But Ian is off at the company, Courtney and Shady can be here
what I do is I go out and work with those companies.
So they'll be your first point of contact. Like I said, they're very well connected to the resources. And if there's something that you don't find, email me. The more specifically ask, the easier it is for me.
The problem is,
It was pretty good for so early. I was like, capital factory.
I give hugs to everybody. All right. You're a non-discriminate hug. Well, I mean, maybe sometimes you have to be.
I would recommend that you start cycling now. Okay. But also, grow it into something, that's sort of the path that we took, but we didn't want to go any higher. She was medically discharged. So Wisconsin Mentors, one of our beginning business partners, they built 2 companies, both were acquired by National and then after those acquisitions, we started so a lot of people come to us and like, I want help, I want your help to start a nonprofit. We do not advocate starting a nonprofit, especially if you don't have the resources to run it yourself. We did that for 2 years, we started our own thing, then we got USA on Dow on like it was our give back to the community, and also a way for us to build up, honestly, more sustainable capital, so that now he's going to go start another company, and we have a network, right? It's all about the network. So I would just encourage, are you in Houston or are you?
I can't imagine when I retire, my goal is, especially if you're, I was thinking even maybe in socially.
So we have a Bunker Labs in Houston. Our city leader there is Kevin Dolphy, who also runs the Lone Star Association. And so they have a lot of affinity groups. They were starting one for entrepreneurship. We said, wait a minute, do you want to duplicate the resources or do you want to partner? And so he did. He partnered, and we've got a great team there. There's a veterans and residents program there. So you can just start showing up to events, Bunker Brews, veterans and residents community events. But I would encourage you to find that something that you would do for free and start building a business around. And then once you get there, you can blow it up or you can sell it. Let me give you my card. If you don't find Kevin on your own, you can email me and I'll connect you.
Okay. And again, part of it is so
Yeah.
That's what like, how much network?
Yeah. The connections will never be
So just really quick to address so we have 2 and the domain is we have office space. Hey, we have an office space. Like, oh, I was like,
I like Wesley a lot. I was really hoping they were going to do
Shady, well done. I'm going to go downstairs to listen to Jen.
We'll see. Yeah, I'll be in there.
Around all week.
So yeah,
She is Austin City leader for
I thought she was up in Waco.
She is willing to be down here.
Awesome.
It means that she'll be here 3 days a week. So we are moving out. I'm in charge of expansion into Louisiana, Oklahoma, New Mexico, and Arizona. Jonathan is in
So I
charge
will,
of
so
for
you know,
maintaining the programmatic quality as it so Shady, yeah, we live. Shady, Ian, and Courtney left.
You're right.
Are sort of taking, they are our team. Bruce going, correct. So their team is not doing the yes, given that you're a couple of inches to be aligned, they would also be the resource officer touching you, and that way we would have a long conversation. Correct. Yeah, they have 2 sessions at 9:30 to get it. Okay, perfect. Well, it's great to meet you. And I'll, we'll have a,
You can go down, bro. I got it in my backpack.
Oh, okay, thank you. I was like looking everywhere for it. Hello.
hi,
How you doing?
Nice to meet
Nice to meet you. So here's my card. Oh, you can keep it in there.
I was gonna say something.
Not today.
Yeah, I'll give you actually a credit card too. Actually, I'm a mentor of psychiatrist, that's how I met him.
Oh, God, so you put Kevin and
So I'm happy to be a mentor to you guys as well.
okay.
Okay?
We have a panel, we can't do this right now.
Get them just
My pen band. Oh, no, that's too much. I don't have one already, we don't have any yet, but I'll connect.
Yeah, because I'm up.
Yeah, so generally, the gist would probably be just to email and then, send me every time.
Okay, if you can send us an email, we'll be back in touch. And we'll lost touch with the bunker.
Okay, we'll reconnect you guys.
Thank you. I'm gonna go down to the first floor of our
I know you have, but it's still like
But maybe I can talk to
a
some
matter
people
of
and see.
expertise, right? Like maybe you can join or help a company that needs
I went to the
to.
MD5 thing over the weekend. It seemed deep and, nerdville, hanging out, coding.
So I left.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, me and Eric and,
I went up, so I got roped into the Google Startup Weekend thing.
oh, yeah, I saw you were, did you go to
No, I was a mentor. Then I popped over here just to check things out. I was like, man, it's like 100 dudes on laptops, and nobody's talking. Well, it's funny because you had all the teams doing their thing, and then you had like a bunch of old guys who clearly didn't know what was going on, but they were like smiling, shaking hands, like how great this is. And then you had a couple of like token media people who were interviewing some of those older guys. It was very typical.
we were up in the, we were up at, we were in the library.
Yeah.
That was our, like,
Secret hideout.
yeah, so we would go downstairs, because we, I mean, we're not happy, we don't have, people at that foot center, but we were just, like, polish and safety, and then all of a sudden, I'm like, so, like, okay,
Can we tweet something about this?
Lord reports GPS location.
In here?
TVO?
I didn't know.
Put on your TVO hat now, Shady. Switch them out.
Like, send you Kudo electronically?
Just saying.
I've been worried about other shit. But hands, getting aggressive.
Oh.
Hey, tell me my interest rate. I don't know.
Like, I've been in every one. You have to kind of wrangle the answers.
That's me, by the way.
The wrangle or the?
I have trained myself to be more of the regular because he needs to do. But I started out. Yeah. So we're probably somewhere. Courtney is the regular for
Yeah, that's what she told me. She was like, because we were at the ski and she's like, oh, okay. So she was walking in and she's like, oh,
There you go. There we are.
she's like, doing a live. So yesterday she was
I was recruiting her and she's like, oh, I think Wes is good for this. And I'm like, no. I love Wes. Thank you, Wes. Thank you. But this is a growth opportunity. And we need your skill set. You're going to be accountable for the operations of this team. And he's not the operator. Like, he's more of the community person, right? So he's more like, that's good. I was so impressed
all day
last
the
night.
first day, and after that, I think that's why yesterday she's like, yeah,
So this is why you said you were going to be in town. Thank you so much.
yeah. I don't know.
I feel terrible. You have to keep secrets from me.
I could say we made her. It's fun. We're easing into it, but we are gonna build you
I just like the line of business, so I saw kind of like it. So
that's
some of the
to go over
emails.
programming. Like, what is our programming? How is it carried out? Like, Jonathan's responsibility is the integrity of the program, which we've sucked at in the last year. Just because as our responsibilities have stacked, it became a lower priority for us, but it needs to be the first priority. So that we have to walk through like what resources we have, the plans that we already have in place, and then y'all get to take that.
So I just discovered
Yeah,
that
there's a lot of
somehow our
autonomy,
application
but there's a structure.
Yeah, and that's where I think
But yeah, it's
there needs to be some
open.
type of
Yes. Okay, yeah, I need to get that.
Nigel LeBlanc, good to meet you. I have met you
Yes,
multiple
I did.
times. I
I
saw you
sent
this
that to your
weekend.
Bunker Labs yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll check it out. I just want to make sure I have the resources that
I'll send the book to you electronically immediately, but I'll get it.
Okay, perfect. And then, as far as like
Yeah.
Well, we essentially build
Actually,
cyborgs.
Jonathan our son figured out how to get into the keychain. And
We help people hide them.
completely, and we cannot find a full
training
system.
program.
So we're gonna
No,
have to go
it's
get
much more of
that.
an intelligence dashboard. So we help implement this decisions by proactive
I do it. I don't know.
The analogy that I have in my head is like when you go by a car.
They ended up like
I'm gonna have to go invest one of those file players now. If he gets them again.
oh, there's this stuff I saw. It was on
I'm a simple kind of guy.
So you have to keep changing.
Which level are
This is the calendar.
How does that,
No,
does
it's
somebody
if you
just
get to a
upload
certain, you
their
set the distance,
MLS
you
and
get
a
to a
couple
certain
of
distance,
reports?
the flash will tell you that you're alive.
All forms of that will presented.
Or vice
MLS,
versa.
military records, training records, and then we match up against real world job
That's good
data.
for if you're like
Do a competitive skills
somewhere
gap
out in
analysis.
public and you walk away with that.
Yes, accessible. So one of our platforms that we're about to launch right now is actually like a cyber game. So within that game, we track the skill sets.
So what?
What else? You got anything else you want to go through this week?
Or China?
We won't have a date like launch. But we moved to that by the way.
For blockchain?
So you may have saw me we came at the very end.
So I'm doing a competition
Next
by
Thursday, this is legacy.
Yeah, I registered with
there's a team of like biologists.
I meant taking
Good.
this.
Should be your like top.
There's another story out there. There's another story out there.
So the pitch is in December. So right now we're working for
So with him, like, we're using it now, so I was talking about like the 5 rules of reporting it out on our website, community connections. And where he is now, like, I was asking like, what do you need now, what is it now? So I get my brain around like, what community connecting with,
just going through the phase 2 clinical.
his right now,
And then also the other part is we have.
his is right now, is travel.
Well, this is just a YouTube chart. It's on Steam, so we haven't imported the kind of capital.
So right now, his priority is capital, since we're kind of capital.
You know, we're looking at 250 maybe just to fund front end and some hours where it is.
Like a meditation.
It's like it's a nutrition spray, but it's usually delivered because it's for and so we're pairing those.
We're using it what's the end game?
So as you
So we have some larger partners and we're gonna engage with
So,
companies like
it's what,
JP Morgan, Booz, and all of those. So it's really just,
you know, because how do we do this, how do we
They
share
will take you
it?
over
Not on
there.
our network, you know,
we
now
have
there's a
people,
risk, but we're
we
not
have two
gonna
companies who want to acquire.
And that's where I found out
That one of them is.
that's the thought right now, so. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
Military. Yeah,
So I
they
went to
train
San
military
Francisco, I
members.
flew out, there was a digital therapy conference.
And a whole bunch of building contracts, we just won the precision contract for,
Push things through the
repurposing.
When you're traveling to like that, make sure you plug into the local
So they take like IT
networks.
and whatever
Raleigh
it is.
Durham.
I mean, sometimes it's weird, sometimes it'll be like, oh yeah, well, I had coffee with them.
So are you,
But
who's
then it's
behind
like,
you?
they're
I mean,
lawyers,
I mean,
you know.
so
You'll meet
employers
everybody
by your
virtually
circuit.
Yes.
One of the things.
Are they already vetted
December
their
5th, 6th, and 7th.
applicants, or you're
We're all
coming
going
with
to.
that?
One of the
Are you
top of
funnel?
Both, so we have
Also
Central Wire,
November, yeah,
you know,
he'll
so
hop off for
it's
San
essentially
Antonio.
whoever's transitioning or has active clearances want to get into that.
We're trying to also decide if
Outside,
we
which
can
is,
do a
you know,
regional.
More than.
we can validate their
Like a team building
employees
between
or
Houston,
their
San
recruits, their
Antonio, and
candidates,
Austin.
whatever it is,
Um,
and then also provide training.
I would like to do it, but that's asking a lot in one.
It's interesting.
Short
It's an interesting
period.
model. I like it.
No, I'm
Like
with
shoot
you.
guns, this, like shoot guns, fire missiles.
This is,
Yeah.
and this is just, this is.
Yeah, definitely like fun.
Scaling
not
beyond
just.
military.
I'm totally joking about that, but yeah, what do you think about that? I don't know, like,
There's a gun range that's like a social thing
The
here.
what?
Yeah.
There's a gun range, it's a
Oh, yeah, the
social
range,
thing.
yeah, Five Eyes.
But you're using some sort of,
Oh, I
you know,
know.
language processing,
Country.
For like,
military records.
Well, you can get, I think, a membership right
Oh,
now.
yeah, I've seen like.
I haven't been there yet.
I was just like, military, tell them they can't come in.
No.
I'm actually a really good shot,
But
so.
civilians is known unknowns,
Yeah.
right? So I don't know if you'll-
My husband asked me to the gun range and he
However,
was upset. that I
military,
was
we can
getting
validate
stuff
the
on
training
it.
records, and we can, you know, use
He's like, "That's
as a
beginner's
station
luck,"
for
and I was like, "Not all
broadcasting.
day."
Yes, I was deployed here, I did serve or whatever it
I
is.
think I'm gonna drop
All
down
in
to
all.
afterwards
Yeah,
and
we're
then,
Radiation is
and that way,
social-
the rest of the day.
That's why people are frustrated with it.
We're gonna
Yeah,
run
the guy who did
probably
this, blah,
up to
blah,
where
blah. I mean, not know shit about
work
it.
there.
Alright, so how do you, first of all,
It's only signaling, I mean, that's all it is, it's not,
HQ meetings.
it's only signaling.
Oh, I did.
When
changes.
people say, hey, I vouch for you, that's why you it's not actually validated.
First touch base.
right,
First.
my point, it's not
So we
validated.
have
So that's why we're focusing on
a
that. So
marketing
it's actually easier, we're getting a lot of hits from
His name is Jamie.
college students or people
And,
outside the military saying, hey, you know what, either I wanna be a cyber warrior or I am,
So
but I still
you
wanna
guys
penetrate this market. So it's
will
kinda like
responsible for getting him
you know,
contact,
both directions. So
but
we gotta
he'll
kinda
post the
like
news.
kill all that noise outside of the military,
Oh, he's.
just to focus on
No,
GMP.
he's actually located in Nashville.
But, I mean,
We're sharing
you know,
the same guy.
What's
with
working for you better?
Lake,
The-
south.
Okay.
You bring in an applicant
That's
or
their only
or
program.
vetting?
And then like, like,
What?
week,
So
like,
for